right, guys, on 106, I'm going to do a couple more examples of graphing in standard form. So if my homies at home don't have graph paper, do the very best you can to make your graphs look super duper good. Okay, so looking at this one here, I can tell that I'm in standard form because I have an x squared and an x. The first thing that we want to do is find that vertex by doing our little baby formula, negative b over 2a, and then plugging it in. Okay, I'm going to leave some space over at the side here to graph it. So when I do my negative b over 2a, I'm finding the x value of my vertex. In this case here, b is negative 6. And then there's already a negative there, so we have a double negative. Over 2 times a, which there's no number in front, so that means it's a 1. So if I simplify this now, double negative makes it a positive 6. And then my bottom is 2. And so 6 divided by 2 is 3. We love it when it works out nicely. So the x value of my vertex is 3. Then I have to take this 3 and put it in place of x to get what my y value will be. So in place of this x right here, we'll have 3 squared. Oh my goodness. Then I'll have minus 6 times 3 plus 2. So 3 squared is 9. 6 times 3 is 18 plus 2. And then when I simplify all this, because now it's just addition and subtraction, we'll have negative 9 plus 2 for negative 7. So that's the y value of my vertex. After doing that initial math, everything else is easy. So the second thing we want to look for is our slope, which is 1. And then the third thing we can find pretty quickly is our y-intercept. That's at 0, c, so 0, 2. With all that information now, we should be able to go graph. And so guys, I'm looking at this and I can see that it's in the positive x and negative y. So like when I draw this out, I'm going to kind of put my y-axis over here. And then my x-axis is going to be longer because we're going to go into the positives and then into the negatives. I hope I made it long enough. Oof. So let's label these. We got y, we got x. And so if we go 1, 2, 3, comma 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh my word. I was just winging it too. We did such a good job. From there, my axis of symmetry will go through that vertex point. And that's kind of a nice guide because when I do my slope of up 1 over 1, I can flip it over and put it on the other side. Also, when I go plot my y-intercept at 0, 2, I can flip that over and put it on the other side and get such a nice looking parabola here. I know it can be tricky to make it look like a U, but just take your time with it. We don't want it to look like a V. It is not a V graph. We want a curve here. And so like you can kind of see, I sort of sketch it out and go real slow. Oh my goodness, look at that cutie. We have a minimum because it's the bottom. We can also talk about the domain, which is always all real. And then the range, because this graph is going up, is greater than or equal to this lowest point, which happened at negative 7. So just a little fun flashback to our parabola fun facts. Ooh, also our axis of symmetry has an equation of x equals 3, because that's the x value that this is going through. Alrighty. Trying this next one here. This one is kind of in standard form, but it's kind of also in vertex form. You could really think of it either way. So I'm going to think of it in standard form because I do want to practice that form, but then I'm going to show you how we can kind of think of it in vertex form as well. So the first thing we want to think about is finding that vertex by doing negative b over 2a and then plugging her in. So to find that x value by doing the negative b over 2a, this is where I wanted to think about this in standard form, because the b value, if we remember, is always on the middle number or the just x number, not the x squared. This one doesn't have a just x. There is no middle x value. So since there isn't one, that makes it a 0. And like I really don't need a negative in front of that because 0 can't be positive or negative. Over 2 times a, which a is negative half. Now I do want to talk about this because that can look pretty scary, but I mean, ignore the fact that it's in a denominator. We're just doing half of 2. That's 1, and it's negative because a negative times a positive. Although the thing is, I kind of don't even need to worry about it because 0 over any number is just 0. Then I need to go find the y value of my vertex. We find the y value by putting x that I just found in place of x here and simplifying. So we'll have negative half times 0 squared plus 3. Now the thing is, 0 squared is 0 times 0, that's still 0. 0 times half is 0. And so really we just have 0 plus 3, so the y value is 3. So we end up with our vertex being at 0, 3. The second and third thing that we always find for standard form are super easy. Second thing is my slope, which is that a value, which is the number on the x squared, so negative half. And then the last thing we can find really easily is our y-intercept. It's at 0, c, so 0, 3, which happens to also be my vertex, so that's not super helpful to get me more points, but that's okay. We'll draw this little cutie over here. We just won't have as many guide points, but we'll still get a general idea of what this parabola looks like. Okay, so if I go plot my vertex at 0, 3, my axis of symmetry actually goes right through there as well. That's at x equals 0. Then I can use my slope of negative half, but I have to do it over 1. So I go down half over 1. Then I can flip that over and put it on the other side. And the thing is, my y-intercept is the same value as my vertex, so like that kind of doesn't get me another point to do, but it's okay. I can still see that my parabola is going down, making that top point a maximum. Your domain is still all real, and your range, because we're going down now, is less than this top value, which happened at 3. Now the thing is, like I said, we could also kind of think of this in vertex form, because vertex form only ever has one x. And so if I think about it in vertex form, the number inside parentheses, there isn't one, so 0. The number outside parentheses is 3. So those numbers were right there for you. I'm so sorry we did all that math. But I wanted to do it because it kind of shows you I want to be on the lookout for what form am I in? Because if I recognize that this is actually vertex form because there's only one x, it makes it so much easier to graph. There's so much math that I can skip. Alrighty, my guys, I will see you in the next one where we're going to talk about how to graph in our last form.